I'm Nadine. I'm the proud mother of Nassan, a 13-year-old living with autism. I'm also the president and founder of Nassans Place, a nonprofit organization that was started over 5 years ago to help children and families affected by autism in and around underserved inner city communities. I'm so happy to stand before you today to say 5 years in, we are currently offering much needed resources that's helping children reach their full potential, and we're also getting acceptance from the community. So join us today as we talk about how Nassans Place is changing lives in our community.
Hey everybody, it's Rae-Shan and welcome to another episode of I Ain't That Chick. I am your host and I'm here with another fantastic guest, Nadine. Please introduce yourself to our audience.
Yes, I'm Nadine Wright-Arbubakrr.
And Nadine has a wonderful project, organization, mission. It's called Nassans Place. Tell us, what is Nassans Place and who is Nassan?
Nassans Place is a nonprofit organization that I started 5 years ago, which was inspired by my son, Nassan, 13 years old, and he's living with autism. And Nassans Place was started due to the lack of resources in my community, such as an after-school program, sensory-friendly activities, enrichment programs for children on the autism spectrum. And I was very frustrated, first of all, when Nassan was first diagnosed, because I did not know what autism was.
Let me take you back. You said 13-year-old son. Take me back to when you were pregnant with Nassan. How was your pregnancy?
My pregnancy was Nassan, but was the best pregnancy that I had. Out of the other 3 pregnancies that I had gestational diabetes, and for my second pregnancy, I had toxemia. With Nassan, everything was no diabetes, everything was just perfect, except he was a big baby. He was almost a 10-pounder, and he was my only child that was born by C-section.
Okay.
He's born by C-section.
So when you're going for the doctor's visits, the doctor tell you anything might be wrong?
No, and unfortunately, you can't detect autism in the womb.
Okay.
You really don't start to detect until the child starts to develop, because that's when you start to see the delays.
Take me to that first moment when you think you noticed something with Nassan.
I'll never forget that moment. I remember calling out his name, and he didn't respond to me, and I'm looking at him like, Nassan, because prior to that, he was about 19 months. He would respond to his name. This particular day, he didn't. And I'm like, Nassan, so I'm like, okay, is my baby deaf, is what I was thinking. Mm-hmm. But then the Elmo commercial came on, which he loved Elmo. All of a sudden, he started getting all happy, so it's like he heard it. So what I did is I laid him down on the bed, because I wanted to understand if he was deaf or maybe it was something mm-hmm. else. I take the commercial for Elmo, laid him on the bed, I called out his name, nothing. I put the commercial on, he jumped up. It's like, oh my God. But in my mind, this can't be real, so it has to be that he can't hear me, so something's wrong with his hearing. So I went to my pediatrician. I said, something's not right. Because I noticed other things. I noticed that he started flapping his hands, and he started running in a repetitious behavior. I didn't know what that was.
But you knew it was different because you had other children.
Right. I knew something was wrong, and that's what I told my pediatrician. I said, my girls, I have three daughters. I said, my girls didn't do this. And, one of the things he said to me, boys are a little different than girls. Mm-hmm. So, you chalk that up to, okay, boys are different. But a mother's instinct kicked in. Something's not right. It wasn't until because he was being babysat in someone's home. And I asked the babysitter, do you see anything? And she's like, no, typical. Something's not right. Because he used to wave bye-bye. Mm-hmm. He would gaze at me. Mm-hmm. Something's not right. It wasn't until I put him into a daycare setting when the very first day the teacher approached me very reluctantly. And she said, we think maybe you should get him evaluated. Mm-hmm. And I'm looking at her and I'm like, you see it too? Because at some point I thought I was alone because no one else saw it. And she was like, yeah, we noticed something. And she was hesitant. And then I found out why she was hesitant. Because a lot of time parents don't want to hear that.
Exactly.
I was welcoming it because I knew I wasn't crazy. And for me to now get validation that there was possibly something. And once she told me what I needed to do, early intervention began. And by this time, developmental pediatrician came involved. And by the time he was about 26 months, we got the diagnosis. It wasn't a diagnosis of autism. It was persuasive developmental delay. Mm-hmm. Back then, they wouldn't diagnose a child with autism until the age of 5, because what the thought process that was told to me is the child is still developing, so they now still have time to develop as a normal, atypical child. Unfortunately, Nassan did not develop into that atypical child. We started having many, many challenges, meltdowns. He started having seizures, uncontrollable crying, laughter.
What is that like as a parent, though? When you're experiencing the meltdowns and the seizures, and maybe you're out in public sometimes, what is that? And when we're out in public, and sometimes our kids are not acting the way we want them to act, and you have other people staring and looking and commenting, what is that like?
It was embarrassing, because I didn't even understand what it was. It was overwhelming. I cried a lot. I still cry. Mm-hmm. The child that I thought that I was going to raise, my first son, playing basketball, football, all those things kind of went out the door. But, at that point, that's not what I was thinking about. Because I'll be honest with you, I was almost 38, 39 when I had him. I'm thinking maybe I was too old. Maybe it was my fault. So the blame game came in. Right. My husband's in his 40s. And then, I prayed. I prayed a lot. I mean, I believe that I'm on this journey right now. I know that I'm on this journey right now because of God. And I know that he's using me through my son, to not only make sure that my son gets what he needs, but hundreds and thousands of other children are now being impacted. But it altered my life. I was in banking. That was my career. I was happy, making great money, living my life. And all of a sudden, boom, career is now gone, because with a child with special needs, you can't possibly work 15, 16-hour days as I was. So I knew what I had to do, and that was not a decision. It was interesting because I knew I needed to find a job that would give me the days and the hours that I can be home with him. And the only profession that I could think of at that time was to become a teacher. Mm-hmm. I started out in banking in the 80s. Back then, you didn't need a degree. So I didn't have my college degree. And there was no way that I could become a teacher without it. So after getting that diagnosis a few months later, I enrolled in classes, and I went back and I got my degree.
So you cut off the job, the money, the income, which sounded like it was pretty nice, and you went back to school. Who was your support system during this time? Because it's not easy to walk away from a career, a career, job, employment, and to switch.
Well, number one, God was my support. And my family, my children, my husband. I got to tell you, through all of it, the one disappointing factor for me, and I had to come to grips with it, was the acceptance from my mother. The one person in this world that I can go and talk to anything about, who's always there. But I think for her, it was denial. So she wasn't as accepting, and that affected me a lot, because my mother's my best friend, and she's the woman I always go to, and she wasn't understanding his diagnosis. And my mom's old school, he's not listening, pop, pop, pop. But this was something new. Yeah. This wasn't a pop, pop, pop
That
moment.
Is so good that you say that, because, growing up, and especially in our culture, you're not listening, whack, pop, a hit, and that's not always the most effective,
of course not.
Or sometimes, even being a Christian, sometimes we say we can pray. And, things will change. And I believe, look, the power of prayer, I believe in that. I stand on that. But there was something different. Let me ask you about your husband. He's not here. Mm-hmm. But how was that for him? His son, first son, only son?
No, my husband has another son who was raised out of state with his mom. Okay. So he didn't raise him every day. He got to see him, typical holidays and summer vacations, that type of thing. So this was going to be the first son that he had that he was able to raise. Okay. And it was very difficult. My husband's a former NFL player. Mm-hmm. And for him, I think it was probably the most devastating news. I think he was in denial. Mm-hmm. Our marriage definitely suffered because of it. And unfortunately, a lot of marriages do. Mm-hmm. Because a lot of men can't cope or deal with the fact that their son is not that atypical child that they want it to be. Today, things are better. There was a point in time where you wouldn't take him out in public because I think the embarrassment was there. The one thing I can tell you, though, he loves his son with everything that he has. And my son, Nassan, loves Dad. If it was a choice between me and him going over the cliff and who's going to save, I'm going over the cliff. But the bond that these two have is beautiful. It's a beautiful, wonderful bond. And, you know, I think, you know, for my husband being the athlete that he is and the man that he is, it took a lot. And I got to tell you, the first time I really saw a different side of his hurt, of what he was dealing with, is when we did an interview with NBA TV, because my stepson, his son, actually plays in the NBA, and he talked about having a brother with autism, so they came out and they did an interview, and I'll never forget the tears that welled up in his face, and at that point, I knew he was hurting. He never talked about it. You know, he never, you know, gave me what I saw that day, and I saw the hurt, but I also saw the love and commitment that he had for his son. So, you know, it has been challenging. I think one of the biggest things for a lot of men in general is, how do I deal with my son not being atypical of what society?
A typical male, especially in a football player. Now, you mentioned tears. Because a lot of us, we don't see the behind the scenes of autism. We don't see the moments where you have tears. What about those rough moments, those moments when you need strength and you have tears? What are some of those moments like?
I can tell you, it's pretty overwhelming when you watch your child go through an involuntary meltdown where he's hitting himself in the head, or he's banging his head, or he's trying to bite you, or he's trying to kick you, and he's crying uncontrollable, and you can't console him.
Or you can't make it right, because moms make everything right.
But the biggest thing for me is, I want to reach out to my son, and I want to tell him everything's okay. And I look at him, and he can't understand me in terms of words. And for me, I've never heard my son's voice. So, for me, sorry.
That's okay.
For me, you know, that's hard. Not to have your son or your child say, Mommy, I love you. Or just, I mean, he says Ma, so I'll take that. I was told that if he didn't talk by the time he was 5, that he would probably never talk. But I know God has a different plan for him, because a lot of things that he's doing now that I was told he would never do, he's doing. I can now tell Nassan to come in my room and pick up something, turn the light on. Before, we couldn't do that. He was in his own world. And most children with autism do go into their own shell. But there's so many different facets of autism. You have the high function, the low function, the moderate, the in-between. So unfortunately, our children are not atypical. They're unpredictable, because I hear some parents say, you know, well, I know he understands this, and a lot of them can, but then in their brain something else happens and they don't. So it's challenging, but you know, Nassan is towering over me now, almost at 6'1".
What's Nassan like?
Nassan is a wonderful. He's truly a blessing, and he is playful. He's lovable. He's unpredictable, and he's mine.
Say that again.
He's mine, and he's mine.
He's mine, and you may not hear his voice, but you hear it through your heart. You might hear it through a touch, and that's beautiful.
Yeah,
that's beautiful.
Nassan has, and Nassan is very smart. You know, it's so funny because there was a time where we didn't think Nassan would be able to hear us do, like if he wanted a cookie or something, and we'll hide it on top of a shelf. And he's right there looking at us, hiding it, but we're not thinking he's smart enough to get a chair and push it up there and get that cookie. But Lord and behold, guess what? He knows. So, you know,
he just doesn't
the
express
little
it
moments.
the way we do.
Yeah, and I got to tell you, when you talked about support of my children, family, my children, I have some amazing daughters, and I got to tell you, I'm truly blessed. You know, God does what he does for a reason, and he allowed my 3 daughters to be able to stand on their own, because he knew he had another mission for me. But those 3 young ladies will go beyond the call for me and their little brother, and even sacrificing their own paths. Like, for example, one of my daughters went to boarding school right after he got diagnosed, and the one thing she said to me before she finally left, she said, Mom, if you need me to stay, I won't go.
What a sacrifice.
And, I looked at her and I said, thank you, but this is not your fight. This is mine. And she said, well, Mom, I'm here. And, one of the things, she was probably the biggest push for me besides all the other signs that God showed me to start Nassans Place. I remember her saying a speech somewhere, and she talked about what she was going to do after she graduated college. But the one thing she said at the very end of that speech is, my dream is to come back and help my mom's dream come true. And that was to start a center for children with autism.
Speaking of your dream, and you mentioned a challenge, you have taken that challenge and you have taken Nassan and you have championed him with his name alone. Tell us what you do. Where's Nassan's Place? Where do you hold it? Where do you house it? What do you do?
Nassans Place is housed anywhere God has found us a space.
Amen.
At this time, we don't have our own facility, but we've been fortunate to have some amazing community partners, some compassionate people right here in Mount Carmel Guild partners with us every day so that we can provide an affordable and accessible autistic-friendly after-school program. Because I got to tell you, it takes a special heart. Everyone can't do what we do with these children, and I know that more than anyone by being a mother. So, we partner with Mount Carmel Guild to do the after-school program. The City of East Orange, one of our biggest supporters.
Awesome.
Autistic-friendly,
Awesome.
sensory-friendly, sensory autistic swim program. One of the most common deaths amongst a child with autism is by drowning. Children with autism are somehow drawn to water.
Okay.
A lot of families can't afford swim lessons for the kids. It's expensive. The City of East Orange actually just won the state award for their autistic swim program, and that was in partnership with Nassans Place and advocacy.
Awesome.
And we offer a basketball camp. These kids want to thrive. They want to do.
And you need the help. Now, do you charge the parents for the children account?
Well, certain programs we do. Most of our programs, our resources or events that we do, we don't charge. For example, the Autistic Friendly After School program, it's a 3 to 6 program that includes homework, sensory friendly activities, recreation. That is $6 an hour. So $18 a day a parent is paying for a child with special needs, and it can be challenging. So we charge them $18 a day.
Practically free. I'm
Practically
free. And I say that because
Right.
you need help.
Right.
You need help.
We need a lot of support, and through generous donors and sponsors, they are helping to make a difference, and I appreciate that. The Orange Elks Lodge allows us to have our masquerade celebrations, holiday parties. We do fundraising events, wine tasting. The biggest thing for me is a 5K walk for autism. But I got to tell you, the best event that we have for me is when I'm there with those families and going to our holiday party every year and having the great sponsors and the families come out. That's
awesome.
huge. But we are 5 years in. I'm so happy to say, as of October 1st.
Big up Nassans Place, 5 years in. That's awesome.
Yes.
That's awesome. And you have a special event coming up. You have a gala.
Yes.
Tell us a little bit about that.
I'm so excited.
You see the smile?
We're celebrating 5 years, and I got to tell you, a lot of people didn't think that I was gonna.
You make it.
I was gonna do it.
First of all, we all got to give you a round of applause. Come on, let's give it up because that's phenomenal. That's phenomenal. Because some parents, and through no fault of their own, they can't last 5 months. It's people. They don't make it 5 months because it's hard.
It's very hard. I'm not going to tell you this has been an easy journey. There's days when I want to give up. And when I wanted to give up, I would get a letter or a text message or a Facebook post. Thank you for doing what you do. I remember one woman told me one day when she came to the movies, thank you for saving our lives. I didn't understand what she meant. But what she meant was I couldn't take my son out to a regular movie theater because people didn't understand. But you've given us a place, because we do sensory-friendly movie days. We get a theater to ourselves. And I wanted people to know that our children will no longer be hidden. And parents need to understand that.
Yes.
We can't hide them. We have to show people that they're a part of the community. But, because of so many wonderful and amazing people who's helped us along the way, we have an annual gala, which we started last year. I'm happy this year we're going to be doing our second annual Community Appreciation Gala.
Yes.
As we celebrate our 5-year milestone. We're honoring some amazing, extraordinary individuals, and these are just a few. Holly Robinson Pete, which is one of my sheroes.
Awesome.
She truly is a woman of the heart and who truly understands it and gets it. So I'm truly honored that she has accepted our honor to honor her. We're also honoring the New York Liberty, who we partner with for the 3rd year as Autism Awareness game day at Madison Square Garden. Our children get to go to a game at Madison Square Garden, which most of them haven't been able to go to. And through great sponsorship, these families get to go to a game. So they're one of our honorees this year, along with Barry and Dolly Siegel from the Focus for Health Foundation.
You are doing a phenomenal work. We have to get ready to wrap up, but 2 things I want to ask you first. 5 years in, where do you see Nassans Place, or what's your heart's desire for Nassans Place 5 years from now?
My heart's desire for Nassans Place 5 years from now is to continue to do what we do, but in our own facility where we can house advocacy, programs, support, respite, anything. Because people don't understand, autism is not just affecting that one child, it affects the household. These families are dealing with it. And just so you know, our programs, our events, is always inclusive of the of the siblings. People need to understand they're forgotten ones. We will not forget them. But I see us in our own facility. I see us having an advocacy area because a lot of these families need support. A lot of them don't know certain things that they may be entitled to for their children to make them reach their full potential. So I see us doing a whole lot of wonderful and amazing things in the community. But I have a bigger dream. My bigger dream is, because my community is not the only underserved inner city community. My goal is to be the model for other underserved inner city communities to follow. So my goal is to be able to go into every underserved inner city community and be Nassans Place, be the blueprint.
That's beautiful. 2 last things. 1, when we spoke on the phone, you mentioned a challenge. You wanted to challenge people to do what? I want you to look in that camera and challenge them.
Here's what I want to say. So often, and a lot of you may not know this or hear this, but parents of children or caregivers of children with autism are actually at wit's end. And what some of them are doing is killing their children. And if they're not killing the children because they can't deal with the day-to-day challenges that come along with it, they're giving them up to the state. Or they're committing suicide and murder at the same time because they think it's the easy way out. But I'm challenging everyone out there who can hear this video to share it, to let them know that if they know of a family, a friend, anyone, giving them a half a day, 4 hours, 2 hours of your time so that they can have some me time, so they can de-stress, so they can be more effective for their children. I truly believe if these families had more support in their lives, that they will still be here today. So I'm asking you to open up your hearts and be a little more compassionate and a little more understanding, because you really don't understand the true magnitude of autism, and it is not a pretty sight. You know, sometimes people only show the good. There's a different side, and you know, it can be challenging. So I challenge you to that.
You're going to close us out, because for the family that does not have any Nassans Place in their life, for the mother or the father that's struggling, for the sibling that maybe feels overlooked, look into that camera. What would you say to encourage or to empower them, to strengthen them, to give them hope? What would you say to them?
Believe and have faith, because that's the number 1, 2 things that will help bring you through, because that's what bringing me through. Nassans Place is therapy for my soul, because I think if I didn't have it, I probably wouldn't be where I am right now, because emotionally it has been draining. So I'm saying to you, reach out to Nassans Place. I'm here. I get calls all times of nights. I'll tell parents, you know, the one thing I realized through this journey, no one really gets it unless they live it. You can have your friends and your family and say, I understand, but a lot of times they really don't get it. I'm here. www.nassansplace.org, or you can call me 973-424-7781. And most of the times I'm probably up until 3 and 4 o'clock in the morning, because I'm on God's mission right now, and my mission is to make sure that I help as many children and families affected by autism as I possibly can. But we need help. So please, thank you.
Thank you. And you know, you mentioned honoring these women at your gala. And I know it's not much, but right now I just want to honor you for what you do. I know it's not easy, but I appreciate you. Thank you for not letting your baby go. And thank you for not letting somebody else's baby go. Thank you for breathing life and giving hope. I so appreciate you. Thank you so much. Let's say goodbye to everybody.
Bye, everyone.
Share this episode. Reach out. Want to find out more about I Ain't That Chick? Visit our website at www.iaintthatchick.com.